Today on r/PettyRevenge. Neighbor's friend parked in car spot, so I blocked him in and made him apologize. Hopefully this fits here. Used to live in a duplex with a double car park at the end of the driveway. One car spot for each resident. Anyway, neighbor had a friend over and decided they would take the spare spot next to the neighbor's car. I've come home after work to find someone in my car spot, so I did the only logical thing and parked directly behind them, blocking them from being able to reverse out of the tight driveway to go home. Content with my actions, I went inside and told the wife my only hope was that they needed to leave before I did the next morning. Sure enough, about 2 hours later there was a soft knock at our door and a very sheepish man tried to explain he didn't realize it was my park, and he was very sorry. He asked could I please move my car. I said sure and moved so he could leave. Never saw him again. It was extremely satisfying. I only wish I'd have been outside to see his face when he realized he'd goofed. For our next story. My cheating girlfriend's awkward date. This took place when I, 29 male, was 19 years old. I had just left Navy boot camp and entered a school. For some background on the story, and for those of you who aren't aware, boot camp teaches you to be a good sailor, while a school teaches you to do the specific job you'll be doing while in the Navy. I had been there for some time when I decided to go to a little movie theater on base and meet a girl who I'll call Cheater. Cheater and I hit it off pretty well, and we started going out. Over a month into the relationship, we make plans to meet up the next day for lunch after morning classes at one of the on-base restaurants. I make it into the eatery and find Cheater already there eating with another man. To paint a picture, they weren't just eating but leaning very close to one another, holding hands. It turns out that not only did she forget our plans, but she also made the same plans with an entirely different guy. Seeing this, I decided to get my food, walk up all sweetly to them, and join them for lunch. The look on Cheater's face when she saw me was one of mortification. I introduced myself as a good friend of Cheater and made small talk, asked questions about the two of them, and anything else that made Cheater as uncomfortable as possible before politely excusing myself so I could head for my afternoon classes. Although I didn't outright rat her out, I made sure to lay it on thick and watched her squirm as her other boyfriend began to piece it all together over the course of our meal. It's sufficient to say things didn't last between me and Cheater. Let's dive into our next story. I can't leave? None of us can leave. When I was in high school, I wasn't very popular, nor did I have a lot of friends. I was picked on and bullied quite a bit, especially by the people in my grade and classes. I was chubbier back then, and the students in my class had given me the esteemed and clever nickname of Fat Ass, and that's what they called me throughout high school. It sucked, but I never let it get to me. The last time I saw most of them was in the government-required provincial exam, where we were all gathered together in the auditorium to do one final test. This was taken very seriously. Once the test started, we couldn't talk, get up, or look around, all under the supervision of our three principals. It was just after the test started when I felt it. This grumbling, gurgling thing was rapidly traveling through my innards, and I knew this was going to be bad. I raised my hand, a principal came by, and I asked to go to the washroom. Before I could even finish, he stopped me and said, "You should have gone before the exam. No one is allowed to leave. You'll have to hold it." This was not something that could be contained. I doubt it was even from this world. It was coming, and it would not be ignored. I discreetly looked around at my classmates who had tortured me for years and knew what had to be done. I leaned forward, lifted my behind off the chair, and unleashed the biggest loaded fart of my life. Its birth call encompassed the entirety of the auditorium and was immediately met with laughter and jeers from my classmates. The principals sprang into action, attempting to get the situation under control, telling everyone to quiet down and get back to their tests. And then the smell hit. This had the pungent aroma of 7-day-old Texas roadkill, left in the sun and marinated in a finely aged cream, garnished with straight sewage. Everyone started coughing, hacking, making disgusted sounds, and trying to get up. I fondly remember one person saying, "My eyes." Again, the principals told everyone they couldn't leave. "This is a provincial exam. Sit down and finish the test." I was crying with silent laughter while the principals were desperately opening doors and windows, but it didn't help. We sat in that foul funk for 15 minutes before it returned to whatever world it crawled out of. I moved and never saw them again, but I'll always remember the principals gagging while trying to waft the fumes out with an open-close motion with the doors. On to the next story. Refuse to wait on us until after the deal expires? This is what happens. This is a story from my dad, as I was very young when this happened. Once upon a time many years ago, there was a Friendly's where we would frequently get breakfast. And back in that day there was a deal available. You could get 2 pancakes, 2 sausages or strips of bacon, and 2 eggs for $2.22, so long as you were there before 11:00 a.m. So we go with a large party to Friendly's and arrive at the empty restaurant before 11:00 a.m. And then we wait. And wait. and wait some more. We aren't waited on until after 11:00, and so the staff refuses to give us the deal. We end up ordering the same things we'd get with the $2.22 deal, but because we weren't waited on until after the deal had expired, it cost much more. With a group of our size, we ended up with a sizable bill. I'm not sure of the exact amount, but it was over $100. Now, my dad was a waiter. He understands well the importance of tips and almost always tips generously. But not on this day, oh no. On the day of this incident, you know what tip my dad left? $2.22. For our next story. Drowning in Nutella, died sad. A few years ago, I, 35 male, was in a long-distance relationship and ended up moving states to move in with her, 36 female, at her suggestion. Straight away it was terrible. A disaster. It was so weird because the second I arrived she completely changed from the person I'd been dating in the past, including previously dating in the same city. Suddenly, every little thing I did was extremely annoying for her, and she'd call me out on it. One example was I have a fondness for Nutella, which is a chocolate hazelnut spread. Every night I'd have a single spoonful from her big jar in her cupboard. This became an issue. She started going on about how I was eating all her Nutella. For days she kept raising it. It was particularly weird because we were both in good jobs, money wasn't an issue, and I was buying most of the groceries. So next time I was at the store I bought a huge jar of it for myself. However, this in itself became an issue. Why was I buying stuff she already had? Didn't I realize she didn't have unlimited kitchen cupboard space? How stupid and insensitive could I be? By this stage, about 3 weeks in, I realized I had to pull the plug and get out of there. I booked a flight which was 2 days away. Enough time for Operation Nutella. I'd noticed the discount store had it on sale, so I bought a bunch. And by a bunch I mean 3 cases, 72 big jars. On the final day I waited till she was out, and spent an hour hiding these Nutella jars everywhere. Bathroom vanity. Sock drawer. In her car. In her garden shed. Inside empty saucepans. Some people might think, oh awesome, Nutella for life, or just give it away. But she had the kind of OCD where I knew it would really bother her. Anyway, I moved back to my home state. We were no longer speaking. A few weeks went by. Then, out of the blue I got a message. F your Nutella and a F you. It made my day. Our last story for today. Try to cheat me on my trip. Enjoy circling the city for free. This happened just now when I called a Bolt driver to pick up my family for a ride to the local lake. As some background info, the app became very successful where I live because the cars are cleaner and the drivers usually friendlier than those of the taxicab companies. Some taxi drivers caught on and switched companies believing they could continue their shady ways there, taking detours to increase the cost, having personal stuff in the cargo bay, smoking while driving. You get the gist of it. To the story, my family wanted to go swimming in the lake which is located on the other side of our city. My sister wanted to take the bus, but I suggested a Bolt, because the bus station has no shade, and there are some constructions being done to the road leading to us. My husband and son obviously agree because neither liked the bus and the car would be faster. So I order a driver. The app says it'll take him about 6 minutes because he needs to finish another ride. Nothing uncommon, no worries. My son is exited, hubby and sis are optimistic so we chat away. After about 2 minutes my son asks to watch the progress, which he often does, and suddenly wonders why the driver is further away. I take a look and, indeed, the driver went the opposite direction passing a store. We surmise that there might have been a construction site too, or that he wanted to dive past ours and continue chatting. After another 2 minutes I check my phone and notice him circling a kindergarten. Maybe he wanted to take a shortcut and noticed he couldn't get through. We continue our conversation. After some more minutes I see the driver getting to a crossing which might lead our way. Finally, the city must be full of construction sites today. I relax a little, but to my surprise he continues ahead towards the train station, not us. At this point I realize that he doesn't intend to pick us up. He intends for me to get bored and cancel the ride, in which case he gets a fee anyway. I start fuming. I write him a message stating that I noticed him having difficulties getting to my location and that I do not mind him canceling so that someone else might come. The driver doesn't reply but gets on the next main street. Possible directions: one way towards us, the train station a little further away, a big hardware store very far away. He chooses the hardware store. I try to call him but he doesn't answer. At this point I've had enough. The driver already wasted about 11 minutes of our time, the bus was long gone by now too. My husband calls another car on his phone while I write a complaint to the app, including a screenshot of the driver and his car, and decide to wait. This driver is not going to drive me anywhere, but I'll be damned if I cancel now. I will let him get to the corner of my street and then cancel. After all, two can play this game. My husband's car gets to us in less than 5 minutes. In all this time, my driver continues to take the scenic route. After a total of 16 minutes, he's got enough and cancels himself. I am very happy to have ruined 16 minutes of this man's life after he tried to cheat me for my money. Thanks God I wasn't in a rush, otherwise I might have been forced to pay the cancellation fee. And those are all the stories we have for today. See you tomorrow.